Welcome back, listeners. I'm David Hensley, former captain of the SS Long Walk Talks Lost, previously docked near a strange island somewhere in the Pacific Ocean, now in flames. I'm joined tonight by my bosun,
Cara Hayes,
and my first mate,
Robert Bradford, made it to shore.
Yes, and we are watching as our freighter burns out in the ocean without us on it while we
the pieces of it, you mean?
As we drink rum straight from the bottle. We are continuing our Lost 20-year retrospective with a recap of Season 4, the highs and lows, what worked, what didn't work, like we've done with the previous seasons. And we didn't have a themed cocktail this time, although we did, well, obviously no, because never mind.
Yeah, this one wasn't really a watch.
Yeah, there was no watch happening. I got myself confused with Smoking Aces, which is the next episode. But anyway, let's start with Season 4, what worked. Robert, why don't you kick us off? What worked in Season 4?
So I talked about this in our episode about what I was looking forward to. But yeah, the pace of this works so well. There are some side effects that I'll get into in the what didn't section, but just this season is like a rocket. Like it takes place in such a condensed frame of time on island compared to the first 3 seasons, and you feel that. Like, it's a sense of the status quo constantly being upended, characters shifting their loyalty in their places. Unlike every... not going to say every season. Season 3 definitely had points where it kind of got to sort of a, okay, what are we doing? Wheels are spinning. Never had that here, and it's just so fun to have it just pull along like that. I think specifically what's really nice is their ability to use the flash forwards to actually advance plot after 3 seasons where, the flashbacks are primarily about telling us who these characters are. You can lay some seeds, you can tell us about some relationships that these characters had with people who, also turned up to be on the island. We can find out that like Jack and Claire are half siblings, things like that. But now with the flash forwards, you can actually do like, okay, Saeed is now working for Ben. Wait a minute, how does that happen? Or, wait, how did Kate come to disguise Aaron as her own son? Like, it's really fun that the writers are getting to actually make the flashes an active part of the narrative that they're building, and you can tell they all just feel really revived by it. And then finally, I just like that after Season 3, where Ben is just kind of the face of the enemy on the island, the leader of the others that our guys are against. This season moves him into a very morally ambiguous place, that we realize there are other factions outside the island, possibly worse than Ben, at the very least with more direct hostility towards our characters than Ben has. And so just watching his journey from being, badly beaten, tied up, being dragged around by Jack and Locke because, by whoever basically is less inclined to kill him right in that moment, to basically calling the shots over like the last half of the season for Locke's faction. It's fun to watch, and Michael Emerson just gets so much more to do. Again, lots of great scenes with him and Terry O'Quinn. And yeah, it positions him well. Again, I never stop being freaked out by the idea that this was just supposed to be a 2 or 3 episode guy, and now you really cannot imagine the show without him at this point.
All very good points, and it's worth pointing out that in relation to what you said about the faster pace, I think I might have brought this up when we started this season, but Season 1 of Lost took place over the course of 44 days, so a little over 5 weeks passed on island. Seasons 2 and 3 were 23 days and 24 days each, respectively, so that's a little over 3 weeks. Meanwhile, Season 4 takes place over the course of 17 days, so just a little over 2 for that one.
It also does something that I think happened occasionally in the earlier seasons, but becomes pretty frequent, of different episodes overlapping the same time frame. Like, we'll cover Desmond and Saeed doing something on the freighter, and then the next episode will show us what like Jack and Juliet were doing in the same time frame. And that's actually worked into the narrative with the idea that the freighter is experiencing time differently, but it's interesting that they play in the idea of, okay, not only is time compressed, it's also not moving in the way that you're used to as an audience.
Love it. Cara, what worked for you this season?
The whole damn season just worked for me. I just thoroughly was in awe of some of our characters, like just the caliber of acting. I mean, it's been there, but having a cohesive here's where we're going has just they just amazed me at all points. I can't get enough, and I love Ben. I know. I love Ben. It's terrible, but I love Ben.
My wife has a love-hate, heavy on the hate relationship with Ben. Like he is the character most likely to cause her to go at the end of an episode.
I know.
Yeah, I don't hate him. I did hate him, like, initially when I first watched it, but now, like, I don't know what I know, but I know what I feel.
Yeah, well, he makes, being evil look so damn good and seem so damn fun that how can you not like him?
I would love to be him some days.
He's also got the power that, in almost all episodes or any point in Lost, the character in the room who knows the most about the island just kind of automatically becomes the most compelling figure. That's part of why Locke seems was such an easy force to gravitate towards, because he had some understanding the others didn't. And since we met Ben, he's, been there the longest of the main cast. He's just keeps teasing all this extra knowledge that he has. Yeah, I don't think we actually ever get that kind of the limit. Like, he keeps telling Locke, I'll tell you everything about the island, and then just never gets around to having that conversation.
Well, for me personally, what I enjoyed most about this season was the continued world building, which to me felt like we hadn't gotten a lot of that really since season 1. Season 1 set the scene and set up a lot for 2 and 3, but it was more of the same. Here are the others. They're weird. They've got their own things going on. Here's the smoke monster. It shows up when it wants to. But season 4, really, it starts by showing us, the outside world is still out there. We got a hint of that with Penny being out there looking for Desmond. But here it's like, the outside world is still there. These people aren't dead and haven't been dead the whole time. And
unless, no.
Are you sure?
I'm very sure. And and here's a bigger bad than you ever thought we would see past Ben, a guy who's willing to buy and sink a plane and fill it with corpses that he dug up in Vietnam. Where did they say those bodies came from?
Cambodia, maybe?
Holiday in Cambodia. I enjoy that. It's kind of ham-fisted, and I think at some point everybody saw it coming, but the introduction of time travel into the narrative with the Orchid Station and the Frozen Wheel and all of that jazz. And we get some new lovable characters. The second and third season, they gave us Echo, they gave us Nikki and Paolo, rest in power, and 3... well, mostly just gave us more others, I feel like. But here we get Faraday, Charlotte, everyone's fan favorite Frank Lapidus, and Miles. Love that. Yeah, those are the highlights.
4 definitely has the highest batting average of its new characters. That I think kind of before this, each season had like maybe 2 characters. Season 2 we had, of the tail section, Bernard's the only one who's really around for the long haul. And then we meet Ben. And then in season 3, we get Juliet. And that's really about it season 2, also Desmond. So they got 3 there. And here, all 4 of the arrivals from the freight are around for the long haul. And while some are around a little longer than others, they all make an impression. And you're all like, okay, glad to see you in the rotation.
Season 4 also gives us a, no pun intended, boots on the ground kind of villain. Just a straight up bad guy, whereas the others have always, they started out like pure evil and then became morally ambiguous and then became semi-likable. We get just a straight up villain in the form of Kimi, who earns his spot, earns the hatred that you feel for the character by the end of it. So Cara, let's start with you this time on what didn't work. Your one-word response in our notes.
Kate. I mean, she's just the answer to everything bad for me.
Yeah.
I mean, because, Nikki and Paolo are dead. So, and so is Shannon and Boone.
That's all very tragic that Kate isn't among them. Yeah, no, I can agree. She contributes probably the least to this season. Robert, you have a slightly more nuanced answer.
So I mentioned this is kind of the trade-off of something I loved, which is the pace is good, but with both a shorter episode order and a much more incident-packed season, some characters do get a little bit of the short shrift, and some of that's just inevitable. Like Juliet does get her own focus episode, but otherwise doesn't feel like a big player. I'm not too bothered because I know she's got more stuff ahead. The ones that kind of stick in my craw a little bit are Russo and Alex after this very lovely reunion at the end of season 3, two recurring characters separated by this really tragic story, finally together. And we see them kind of around each other a bunch, but we never really have just a scene where they're one-on-one having a conversation. We're seeing, Rousseau, who's barely able to connect with anybody after a time alone, having to bridge the gap with this person who she, above all else, wants to connect. And while the suddenness of her death is a very effective shock, like it's a really great gut punch to end an episode, it's also just sort of there goes, one of the most formidable survivors on the island. So, yeah, again, somewhat inevitable, especially with the way this season got a little truncated by the writer's strike, but I'll always wish we'd gotten a little bit more development of that. Kind of the same thing with Michael. It feels like we get so much build to, who is Ben's guy on the boat? Who is this guy? What's he up to? We finally see him. We get a flashback of how he got there. Then he's immediately exposed and thrown in the brig. And then it's the finale already. And so again, truncated season. I just wish we'd gotten maybe that they'd shown us Michael earlier, let him, play off a little bit more of the survivors in situations where they actually have to work together and not just or they have to just exist side by side versus when there's a bomb they're trying to take care of and nobody really has time to talk about. Oh yeah, those 2 people you murdered.
Okay, random question. Speaking of the bomb, I know you were talking about how they looked into what amount of C4 it would take to blow up this freighter, and it was this tiny little amount, and they were like, no, it must be bigger. But that was all packed into the trunk that he received? Is that right?
I'm trying to remember if that would have been something they'd considered back then. I know about it because they mentioned it in the commentary for the finale. I don't know if that conversation about how much C4 do we want versus how much it would actually need happened when they were filming Michael's flashback or if it happened in the finale. It just...
But are you asking how it got on the boat in the first place?
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that would be my assumption.
That large amount. I mean, because that trunk seemed...
Yeah, no, I don't think that it's what was on in Michael's trunk. I think Kimi and co. just brought that with them.
I'm fine with either of those as an explanation, that maybe after Michael was unmasked, they searched his stuff and found all these explosives. But also I can believe Kimi and this kind of mission would just happen to have enough C4 to blow a freighter out of the water.
Or blow up an island.
Yeah, so that's that for me, I'm okay with either answer to that.
I thought about it when we talked about that episode, but then I forgot to mention it until now.
And then the other thing and this is maybe a little unfair because it's the criticism of, I wish they'd told these stories, but I have a hard time looking at, where in the season they could have swapped this out. So it's I feel it feels unfair to complain about not getting to see something without having an idea of what it could have replaced. But I do wish we'd had a little bit more of the sense of the tension between Locke and Jack's factions, because it feels like such a big moment when, it starts with Jack literally trying to shoot Locke in the head. He points a gun at Locke, pulls the trigger, and the only reason Locke doesn't die is because the gun's not loaded. And then they all split up and go their separate ways. And we get a little bit of the, not quite antagonism, but the tension between them when Saeed has to go and negotiate Charlotte's return. But otherwise, they're just kind of off in their own sections. And then Locke's group gets mostly wiped out by Kimi, and that's just sort of the end of it. So, again, weird that the things that don't work are trade-offs of the things that I think worked best about the season, but they are just, life is about trade-offs sometimes. And the trade-off to loving the rocket pace of the season is finding those few moments that I wish we could have spent a little more on.
You wonder would the season have been as effective if the writer's strike had not happened and had not truncated the season to that extent? Would we still feel the same way if we'd had the full complement of episodes that, perhaps dug into Russo and Alex or the faction dynamics?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that in that version of the show, I'd be sitting here thinking, I hate that the show's momentum just died midway through the season. They were rocking it up, and then all of a sudden we just get a few episodes just sitting around and talking, and that's not good. So,
Yeah.
maybe alternate universe Robert is griping in the opposite direction, as I'm sure he so often is.
Yeah, I agree with that because it's kind of a damned if they do, damned if they don't kind of scenario. Even though at this point they had mostly figured out where the show was going and where they needed to get to and how. Filling up a 22, 23 episode season satisfactorily is a very tall order. So, I mean, yeah, some things got cut short, but also the pacing. Now, I will say, in terms of what didn't work, I'm going to piggyback off of what Robert said in terms of people getting the short shrift. Two of the main cast members, Jack and Kate, get probably what feels like the least amount to do right up until the very last few episodes, aside from Jack's whole weird appendectomy thing that just sort of pops up out of nowhere. And also, Kate's flash forward probably contributes the least to the flash forward plot overall the whole season, I think. Where it really didn't give any new context in retrospect, whereas everyone else's flashbacks, or flash forwards rather, do something to build a narrative. It's just like, oh yeah, and Kate went to court. She had to go on trial for those murders she committed, and her mom turned her back on her.
Which is interesting because, on paper, Kate's got kind of one of the most interesting dramatic situations on the island, which is, for her, rescue is not automatically a desirable thing. Like, even back in the first season, she had to wrestle with the question of, if we get picked up by like a passing boat, I'm going to be in handcuffs as soon as we get back to, U.S. jurisdiction. So I guess they had to address it, but yeah, it does feel so focused on her and less about like the mystery and the change of circumstances compared to like Saeed or Hurley or Sun's flash forwards.
All right. Well, in terms of just general highlights of the entire season, I'll kick that off because this season has one of the more memorable twist endings. The Jeremy Bentham reveal that we spent a lot of time talking about last week. The camera, oh my gosh, what's the word that I'm looking for? Jibbing, I think, over the coffin and revealing Locke laying there. That might not be the correct technical term for what kind of camera movement I'm talking about. But I don't think anyone really expected to see Locke there, and it's one of those things that has stuck with me for 15 years now. Like, I remember so clearly my shock at seeing him in that coffin, and the talk of like having to take him back to the island, all of that. It's so great. And it's worth mentioning as well the Sun's transformation into just a stone cold badass, especially in her last flash forward where somehow she gets controlling interest of her father's company and threatens him into submission. It's just fantastic.
And possibly hints at an alliance with Charles Whitmore.
Oh, yeah. I don't even know if we talked about that last week. Did we?
Yeah, I don't think
we
so.
did. Yeah, but just the idea that, like, of all the Oceanic Six, Sun might actually be siding against Ben and the others.
Yeah. Cara, highlight of the season for you.
Oh, God. I mean, it's absolutely the Desmond and Penny reunion. Like that, I enjoyed that as much this time as I did the first time. I just adore those two. I could not love them more if I tried. It's just, I don't know. For me, it's right up there with Sun and Jin, like as far as the love story part of it. But I think they're my favorite. And then, like you were saying, just for me, it was the finale of the finale. Like it was just so jaw dropping. Like what? Because how do we get from there back then to now? Yeah.
Yeah, that sentence makes complete makes complete sense in the context of the show.
Yeah.
When will then be now? Soon.
Exactly.
How soon is now?
Close.
We're gonna
That's all
hear
I got.
A lot of dialogue like that coming up in season 5.
Whatever happened, happened. Robert, highlights for you.
So the first highlight I noted down is actually just kind of a quiet little scene. It's when the bit where Jen and Bernard go fishing after Jen has discovered that Sun had an affair, and he and Bernard just go out. And it stands out because, again, talking about how fast-paced this season is, it's the kind of scene you would have probably had at least once an episode in the first couple of seasons. And they don't really have the space for just a scene of two characters just going out, neither of whom speak a common language, but just connecting over, it's hard to be married sometimes. And yeah, I just love it because it's a quiet, beautiful scene, just very well played by Daniel Day Kim and Sam Anderson. And I'm glad they found a little space for that, just because it reminds you of just why this show works so well, is because it never stopped caring about the people in the midst of all the crazy plot mechanics. On sort of the far side of that, like one of the biggest and most wild scenes is everything leading up to Ben calling the smoke monster in as backup. From the attack on what they call New Otherton to the sequence where Ben unsuccessfully tries to bluff Kimi out of not shooting Alex. And then, just when the floor begins to shake around them and we see the monster just come flying out of the forest to wreck the mercenaries. That is still just one of the most, I remember watching that for the first time and my jaw just dropping. This just felt so huge in the way that Lost, even for a very high budget network TV show, you just did not get stuff that looked like that or felt that big a lot of the time. And, oh man, I just love that whole sequence so much. And finally, definitely agree about Desmond and Penelope's reunion at the end. But for me, the real highlight is the culmination of The Constant, when Desmond, who has been unstuck in time, bouncing back and forth, back in his past self, just desperately pleads the woman whose heart he's just broken to just be somewhere where he can call her because he's going to need her down the road. And then in present day, Desmond calls her, and just the look on his face when he hears her voice for the first time in so many years. Oh my gosh, just that is the crescendo, the aria, just the guitar solo of one of the show's finest hours.
Beautifully said, Robert. Finally, the last thing we're going to talk about is things that we are looking forward to in season 5. And Cara, why don't you take that one? You go first. What are you looking forward to in season 5?
Seeing it, since we figured out I never have.
I feel like you had to have, but
I mean, I would think, but I don't know. Maybe I didn't.
We just have no proof that you did, but you must have.
Yeah, I feel like once we start, things are going to happen. You're going to be like, oh, yeah, I remember this. I remember that. But
I hope so.
For me personally, what am I looking forward to in season 5? Watching you watch season 5. That's going to be, and I mean, also watching season 5 on a television, because I think I've talked about it on here before. I know I've definitely talked to the two of you about it. Because of the way I got into this show, I watched the first 4 seasons on a combination of the ABC website and DVDs from Blockbuster, both of which are very old-fashioned sentences to say. But season 5 was airing as I was watching those first 4 seasons, so I was illegally downloading them week to week so that I have them backlogged for when I got caught up. So I watched them all in very close proximity to each other on my laptop. So I'm looking forward to seeing these on an actual television screen, and also in varying degrees of quality. So actually seeing them in high def will be nice. Robert, looking forward to in season 5.
I'm looking forward to the introduction of the last great love story that this show has for us. The only one we haven't really had an introduction for yet. The foundation's kind of there if you see it, but I don't think it was on anybody's radar, including the writers, when they finished season 4. But by the end of season 5, it is going to be just consuming and breaking all of our hearts. I'm also just looking forward to more timey-wimey shenanigans. I use that term advisedly because it comes from Doctor Who's fandom, And I'm just realizing I started watching Doctor Who in my freshman year of college, I think, between seasons 5 and 6 of Lost. And I'm just now realizing maybe I went for a show that was all about like adventures and time travel and craziness because I was jonesing a little bit when Lost wasn't on the air. But yeah, a good time travel narrative can be very hard to pull off, and I really, really like what this show ended up doing.
Agreed. Well, guys, do we have any final thoughts on season 4? This all went by very quickly, but then again, so did the season. A lot of moving parts, a lot of it getting there very quickly, a lot of setup for the next 2 seasons. So anything else you guys want to talk about or add before we wrap up?
There is one scene kind of similar to the moment where Kimi and Ben have their standoff that results in Alex's death. There's another scene in the very final scene of, or the final episode of season 5 that also leads to another character's departure that I remember being just really wrenching when I watched it, and I'm a little scared to watch it again with some of the people in our group.
Yeah. And I mean, Cara, if you think you cried at this finale.
No, listen, y'all have not seen me cry until you watch me watch the end of the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, we still got that to look forward to, but I know you're going to cry at the end of 5, too.
Apparently, that is just my lot in life now, is just to feel feelings and cry a lot.
Oh, yeah, and it was the show's job at the time to really be like, hey, you know the action-adventure of the first 3 seasons? Fuck you, it's sad now.
Yeah.
All right. Social media sucks. Robert, what are you working on or doing that's bringing you joy?
I'm reading a book called Sharpe's Tiger. It's the first in a series of historical novels by a guy named Bernard Cornwell about a soldier in the British Army during the Napoleonic Wars. Very fun, very adventurous so far. Really liking it. Apparently it was adapted into a series of TV movies starring Sean Bean, which I want to look up once I've read the books.
Nice.
Very nice. Cara, what about you?
I'm re-watching Person of Interest so that I can get a little more Michael Emerson. I love him in that show so very much. And I remember when I started watching that show, I just remembered Ben, and I could never remember that his name was Harold Finch. I'm like, this goddamn Ben. And then I'm like, but
It's like rewatching the first Saw. I know his name in that movie is supposed to be Zepp, but every time I watch it, I'm like, hey, it's Ben Linus.
Yeah, I think he will always be Ben Linus for me.
I remember when he showed up in like a season of Arrow or something, and he was revealed as like this big bad they'd been building up to for a season and a half. And then he kind of dies unexpectedly, I think because the actor had sort of been like, I've been playing villains for a while now. I want to try something else. I think that was when he moved over to Person of Interest.
Well, and I mean, he's keeping it right going with, oh, geez, now I can't remember.
It's literally called Evil.
Oh, yeah, that's right, Evil. Oh, God, he's so slimy good in that show. Like, I think he outdoes Ben in that show, but
If
yeah.
Ben worked for literal Satan.
Yeah, really, yes.
It just sounds to me like the quote that's been going around. I know writers who use subtext, and they're cowards. So after last week saying I'd read myself out and was going to take a little break after finishing it so quickly, Katie, my wife, and also watches along with us sometimes, most of the time now. Like I feel like she's sort of gotten more into the show. Well, she just started listening this morning to The Running Man, the movie of which is coming out this week. So I was like, God, I haven't read that book in like 20 years.
Oh, fuck, I gotta hurry up.
Yeah, you do. Get on that. So I downloaded it and I started rereading The Running Man today. That's nice and dystopian and a harsh preview of what the world looks like pretty soon. The fun fact, the book is set in 2025.
Hooray.
Got that to look forward to.
And
movie coming out when it's actually set. Interesting.
That's crazy. And as far as social media goes, you can follow us on Instagram at Long Walk Podcasts. That's podcasts, plural with an S. The old one that is now defunct that Shelby Death Ray Patterson used to manage was Long Walk Podcast, singular. Don't follow that one. Go for the extras, the mini podcasts,
Plural.
the plural podcasts. There we go. Thank you. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us to see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming. You can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on.